say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. Order. Arm.
Good afternoon. I am Mark Maguth, Commander of the Bureau of Support Services, and I would like to welcome everyone to the City of Cleveland Division of Police Award Ceremony. First off, I would like to acknowledge retired Sergeant Kennedy Jones for a very fine job performing the national anthem. I would like to call upon Cleveland Division of Police Chaplain, Rabbi Wolf, to offer the invocation.
Good afternoon. Let us pray. Almighty God, merciful Father, as we open this award ceremony, we lift our hearts to you to express our gratitude for the warm spirit of caring, friendship, and fellowship that marks the tenor of this occasion. We ask for your blessings upon the Honorable Mayor, Safety Director, Police Chief, and all honored guests gathered here. Almighty God, continue to shine your warmth and grace on this community, its public servants, for their dedication in making our city a better and safer place for all your children. Lord, as we know that in protecting and being of service to your children in time of need, they are fulfilling a godly mission and as such are partners in the divine plan. May they be blessed with an unlimited reserve of strength, good health, and much success to be able to pursue their sacred endeavors. Lord God, we remember today the souls of Officer Skirnovich and Officer View. May we uphold the noble heritage they transmitted to us and their families. May their souls be bound up in the bond of eternal life. May their memories ever be for a blessing. And let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Rabbi Wolf. Please take your seats. At this time, I would like to recognize our city officials and other special guests who have joined us for today's ceremony. Honorable Frank Jackson, the Safety Committee Chair, Councilman Blaine Griffin, Director of Public Safety, Karrie Howard, Chief Calvin Williams, and our Cleveland Division of Police Command Staff, Cleveland Police Foundation, Rick DeShant, members and representatives from the CPPA, the FOP, the Black Shield, and the HPOA. Thank you. Please welcome the Honorable Mayor Frank Jackson, who would like to say a few words to our honorees.
Good afternoon. I want to, first of all, welcome everyone to the ceremony and congratulate all the officers who will be recognized today and really thank you for your service. This will be my last Division of Police award ceremony, so I want to say on a personal note that I want to thank the command staff, all of the Division of Police officers, whether you're being recognized today or not, and say that I appreciate the work that you've done, although not always recognized, that I want you to know that I have recognized it, and I appreciate your service. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor Jackson. Now, please welcome Safety Director Karrie Howard, who would like to say a few words to our honorees.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for being here today to acknowledge the heroism and sacrifice of those being honored. As the mayor said, it often is not recognized what our uniformed service members, our uniformed officers, provide to the city. It's no secret that we are in unique times that are testing the relationship between our citizenry and our safety forces. Complicating things even further is the exploitation of the sometimes justified tensions between these perceived separate entities. The ideology that there is a separation between citizen and officer, it must be eroded. While we hear calls for increased accountability, transparency, transformation of policy, training, and the way safety services are provided, we often fall short in sharing to the extent that it needs to be shared, that these clarion calls are common amongst our safety forces and our citizens. Ultimately, officers, police officers, are citizens. They're citizens who have made it a career to lean forward to provide aid and rescue to those in need. And I tell you this, that I think it's safe to say that we are of one mind when it comes to the safety and security of our city. There's not us or them, it's just we. I know this to be true because we are here to pay tribute to those who have by selfless feet exemplified this idea or notion that we, citizen and officer alike, are responsible for each other as one city. So I thank you for being here to honor those to be honored.
Thank you, Director Howard. At this time, I'd like to introduce Chief of Police Calvin Williams to say a few words.
Thanks, Commander. Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
I'm going to take a little chief's privilege here today. I'm not going to be long. If folks in the room know what that means, I'm not going to be long, but I do have to say a few things here this afternoon. First and foremost, I want to congratulate you. I want to congratulate our officers, their families for supporting them for the job that they do day in and day out. Sometimes it's a thankless, tireless, ongoing feat, but you guys do it, and I appreciate it. I also want to thank Mayor Jackson. The mayor has been here with us through thick and thin, through good and bad, and has never wavered in his support of this division. So I want to thank the mayor. I want to thank Director Howard. Even though he's a short timer with us, Director has stepped in and he has led the fight out there for safety on our streets, definitely for accountability to make sure that we do things properly, but also to support our men and women in blue and to make sure that from his end, we get everything that we need to do our jobs properly, safely, and effectively. So I want to thank you, Director. I also want to take another privilege here and just talk a little bit about our division. We have, since 2014, when I became chief, we've been through some trying times. We've also been through some great, sometimes hilarious, but momentous times here in the city together. From our Cavs parade, which I look at a picture right behind my desk of the full breadth of the parade and our folks out there and all that wine and gold and the mass of humanity and how hard and long that day was for the people that were here, but how satisfying. So if you missed that, you missed a once-in-a-lifetime thing. It was great. You guys performed exemplary as usual, even in the face of millions. And you did a great job for this city and put us on the map, so I appreciate that. Fast forward to the RNC a month later. Doom and gloom. But this division did what it does best. We took on the charge and we took care of business. Thank you. I really didn't want to get emotional because there's a lot that I want to say. This summer, when the mayor announced that he would not run, actually on a Zoom call that we were doing for a citizen engagement call. And I talked to him after that and basically said, if you're not running, Mayor, I'm out the door with you. And I meant that. And I only told a few folks, some of our command staff, of course my family, some close friends, that if this mayor wasn't going to be sitting in that seat in 2022, I wouldn't be sitting in the seat next to him. I apologize. This is my last official act as the chief of this division. And I'm going to miss you guys. I'm going to miss you because you do a great job. You make us proud. And you get out there and you do a great job for us day in and day out. And people don't realize how hard it is. But I do. And I thank you for that. And I appreciate that. And people have sacrificed their lives for this job. But I don't think a lot of us realize that. I don't think the public realizes what we go through in our careers. I definitely want to thank you. I want to thank our surviving families. You guys, we'll forever have you in our hearts and support you. The folks that are getting awards, keep doing it. Keep making us proud. Keep the city safe. And keep making this division the best division in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Williams. We'll be presenting the following honors tonight. The Medal of Heroism is awarded to police officers who demonstrate extraordinary bravery or act in an exemplary and extraordinary manner while at a substantial risk of personal harm. The Distinguished Service Medal is awarded to officers who demonstrate a high degree of personal initiative, perform substantially beyond standard requirements in an exemplary manner, contribute significantly to the achievement of law enforcement goals, or consistently perform at the highest levels of law enforcement excellence as indicated by unique faithfulness to duty. The Police Star is awarded to those police officers wounded, seriously injured, or killed in the performance of their duties while protecting life or property. The Special Commendation Award is awarded to division personnel who distinguish themselves by improving an administrative or tactical procedure within the Division of Police, fostering a successful community affairs program, or performing a valuable police service that demonstrates exceptional diligence or perseverance. The Chief's Letter is a special letter of recognition issued to officers for acts that represent the officer's diligence to duty and furthering law enforcement ideals. The Police Officer of the Year Award is awarded to sworn members of the Cleveland Division of Police who has demonstrated an outstanding devotion to duty and who consistently and uniquely perform their assigned duties to the highest degree beyond the level established by one's peers. The Chief's Outstanding Unit Award is presented in recognition of outstanding police service performed by a unit within the Division of Police. The Captain Jimmy Purcell Crisis Intervention Award is presented to an outstanding division member who distinguishes themselves by utilizing crisis intervention team tactics and de-escalation techniques to safely and effectively resolve incidents involving individuals who are in crisis, who foster collaboration and compassion to assist community members affected by mental illness and or increase awareness about mental health, or who promote and support combined efforts to create and sustain more effective interaction among law enforcement, mental health professionals, and individuals living with mental illness, including their families and communities, to eliminate stigma. The Citizen Award plaque is awarded to civilians who distinguish themselves through the performance of a heroic act involving significant personal risk. I would ask, before we present the awards, ensure everyone's cell phone is on silent. Captain James Purcell will be the first recipient of the Captain Jimmy Purcell Crisis Intervention Award posthumously. I would please like the Purcell family to come up. Captain Purcell was known for his good humor, patience, intelligence, and generosity. It did not matter if it was his time, talent, or money, he was always there to help. Captain Purcell loved music, playing the guitar, and was a very talented artist. More than anything, he was devoted to his family. His 3 kids meant the world to him. He took enormous pride in their individual accomplishments. Captain Purcell had a heart and compassion despite the awful things he saw, especially early in his career. He loved being out on the street and reluctantly took his promotion to captain, mainly so his mother could brag even more about his son, Captain Purcell. He was the first crisis intervention coordinator for the Division of Police, and he worked to build the foundation of the Mental Health Response Advisory Committee. He took great pride in working to bridge the gap between the mentally ill and the law enforcement. Captain Purcell lost his battle with cancer on January 18, 2020. He was one of a kind, and the world will never be the same without Jimmy. To the family of Captain James Purcell, it is our privilege to honor you with this award. For our members, when coming up to receive an award, please form up on the right-hand side of the table. We will take photos, but we will not be shaking hands because of social distancing, and we would also ask that you wear a mask.
Hey, I'm sorry, real quick. Just for COVID guidelines and things like that and to keep everybody safe, the individual officers that are going to receive an award, you can remove your mask just for the photo. The mayor, the director, and I will keep our mask on because I want to see your smiling face when we take that photo when you get your award. So you can, for that brief second, take the photo, but then replace your mask. Thank you.
Will Sergeants James Bryant and Michael Harper Detective Daniel Florence, Robert Cruz, Timothy Hannon, and Zara Hudson, please come forward. Sergeants Bryant and Harper and Detectives Florence, Cruz, Hannon, and Hudson will be receiving the Distinguished Service Award. Over a span of several months, Sergeant James Bryant spearheaded a complex and collaborative case, supervising several district and unit detectives throughout the city. Detectives Daniel Florence, Robert Cruz, Timothy Hannon, Zara Hudson, and Sergeant James Bryant and Michael Harper were working on multiple cases involving several juveniles who went on a carjacking spree that lasted several months throughout the city of Cleveland and surrounding suburbs. These juveniles were linked to over 40 grand theft motor vehicle crimes, as well as aggravated robberies. As time progressed, the juvenile suspects became more brazen and violent. Vulnerable young females and the elderly were targeted, and the incidents escalated to assaults and shootings. When the suspects were confronted by police, they would immediately and recklessly flee in stolen vehicles, creating a danger to the public. Detective Daniel Florence, Robert Cruz, Timothy Hannon, Zara Hudson, and Sergeant James Bryant and Michael Harper showed great personal initiative by investigating a large number of violent crimes they believed were connected to individuals they had prior knowledge of. The detectives exhibited the highest level of professionalism while working with multiple investigative units and outside agencies leading up to the apprehension of these males. On March 9, 2021, a collaborative operation plan was developed and implemented, which resulted in 3 juvenile suspects being taken into custody after a vehicle and several foot pursuits. Through cooperative efforts, officers were able to locate and arrest violent suspects, locate evidence, and recover stolen property. Officers, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Officer Garrett Rohal and Officer Matthew Randolph please come forward? Officers Rohal and Randolph will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal. On October 14, 2020, Officer Garrett Rohal and Officer Matthew Randolph were assisting in trying to apprehend a male wanted for multiple grand thefts and fleeing and eluding. This male had previously expressed a desire for suicide by cop and was considered to be dangerous. The suspect was located at a scrapyard and the male jumped into a pickup truck. He began to ram scrap cars with the truck as he was attempting to get away, almost striking an officer several times. After crashing the pickup truck, the male fled on foot, running across the tops of cars, and then entered a semi-truck and began to drive. He crashed the semi-truck into 6 parked vehicles and drove through a fence towards the street road. Fearing the stolen semi-truck was going to make it out into traffic, Officer Randolph ran into the driver's side of the truck while Officer Rohal ran to the passenger side. Officer Rohal opened the door and climbed into the cab and ordered the dangerous suspect to surrender. With the help of other officers, Officer Rohal was able to safely stop the semi, while Officer Randolph was able to handcuff the male before anyone was hurt. Through cooperative efforts, quick actions, and performance in an exemplary manner, officers were able to arrest a dangerous, wanted criminal with no injury to the citizens of Cleveland, the suspects, or the officers. Officer Rohal and Randolph, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Officer Richard Varndell please come forward? Officer Varndell will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal, and it appears he will not be with us today. On September 26, 2020, Officer Varndell responded to a car for a suspected stolen vehicle. Upon arrival, Officer Varndell located the vehicle and observed a male sleeping in the driver's seat. The male had a firearm and an extended magazine in his waistband. After calling for backup, Officer Varndell devised a plan to safely disarm the male and relayed this information to the responding officers. Officer Varndell was able to disarm the male and place him under arrest without incident. It was discovered that the male had an aggravated murder warrant and that the vehicle he was sleeping in, along with the firearm in his waistband, had both been stolen. When interviewed by the homicide unit, he gave a full confession to the aggravated murder charge. Officer Varndell's claim and decisive planning avoided a potentially dangerous encounter as he displayed a high degree of personal initiative that is beyond the normal requirements. It is our privilege to honor him with this award. Will Captain Thomas Manzak, Sergeants Brian Karrie, Demir Savor, Daniel David, Joseph Rini, Detectives David Wynn, Demetrius Madison, Matthew Kavanaugh, Michael Williams, Officers Brian Chrisman, David Kelly, David Kozik, David Schramm, George Burke, and Joseph Wright, please come forward. These officers will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal. On May 30th, 2020, a peaceful demonstration quickly turned violent as a group of approximately several hundred rioters attempted to enter the Justice Center unlawfully. In response, the Cleveland Division of Police Bike Group took a position in front of the doors, blocking the headquarters entrance to both the Cleveland Division of Police and the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. With no riot gear or shields for protection, dressed only in their regular bike uniforms, this group of 18 officers stood their ground while getting screamed at, spat upon, pushed, kicked, and hit with debris. Despite the chaos and danger surrounding them, these officers maintained their position. They stopped the rioters from entering the building, preventing further damage to the property and potential harm to people inside. After securing the headquarters, the bike group continued to respond to calls for service in the downtown area for the duration of the day and into the night, utilizing their mobility and speed effectively. Overall, the Cleveland Division of Police Bike Group members proved to be a valuable asset as the Division of Police established peace and order in the downtown Cleveland. Officers, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Officers Aaron Luther and Darren Sylvester please come forward? Officers Luther and Sylvester will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal. On May 2nd, 2020, Officer Aaron Luther and Officer Darren Sylvester responded to a call for shots fired and a male down. Upon their arrival, Officer Luther observed a male on the ground between the gas pumps. He immediately requested EMS and then began rendering life-saving first aid. The male had been shot multiple times and had sustained life-threatening injuries. EMS arrived and transported the victim to the hospital where he was upgraded to stable condition. While Officer Luther was assisting the victim, Officer Sylvester immediately gained important information from the gas station attendant. He requested the owner of the gas station respond so the officers could view the surveillance video. Officer Sylvester secured the crime scene and located 3 casings on the ground, which turned out to be crucial pieces of evidence. Once the owner responded, Officer Luther was able to view the video and broadcast a description of the suspect in the vehicle, including the license plate. This information led to officers from University Circle Police Department locating and arresting the shooter a short time later. Officer Luther responded to the arrest location and recovered the clothing the suspect was wearing at the time of the shooting. The hard work of these officers led to the apprehension of a dangerous male who had no regard for human life. Their diligence removed an extremely violent criminal from the streets of Cleveland. Officer Luther and Sylvester, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Officer Varndell will be receiving another Distinguished Service Medal. On April 5th, 2020, Officer Richard Varndell responded to a call for shots fired with a male down. Upon arrival, he located an 81-year-old male lying on the ground with several gunshot wounds. Officer Varndell interviewed witnesses and learned that the suspect had just randomly started shooting at people and passing cars. Witnesses directed Officer Varndell to the last known suspect location. Other responding officers set up a perimeter, and soon after, the armed suspect was located trying to break in an abandoned apartment building. Officer Varndell was able to arrest the male and recovered a loaded semi-automatic gun with an extended magazine. The victim succumbed to his injuries several hours later. At extraordinary risk to himself, Officer Varndell was able to locate and arrest an armed homicide suspect who minutes earlier went on a shooting rampage, killing an innocent man and putting numerous bystanders and passing motorists at a substantial risk. It is an honor to provide him with this award. Will Lieutenant Pat Petranek, Officers Charles McNamara, Garrett Rohal, and Jessica Wolski please come forward? Lieutenant Petranek, Officers McNamara, Rohal, and Wolski will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal. On November 3rd, 2019, Officer Charles McNamara assisted a female in an attempt to get her children from their father. The male owned guns, had a history of violence, and had threatened to shoot anyone who tried to pick up the kids. Officer McNamara, Rohal, and Wolski responded to the home and noticed the agitated male was wearing a bulletproof vest. The male had first slammed the door shut when he noticed the officers. He then came outside with one child, but refused to follow officers' instructions. He went back inside and left the first child on the porch. The officers quickly rushed up to the porch and brought the child to a safe location. The male came outside again with the second child, still wearing a bulletproof vest, and was now holding a handgun with his finger on the trigger. The male ignored the officer's instructions, but left the second child on the porch and went back inside. The officers again quickly rushed up to the porch and brought the second child to a safe location. The male came out a third time in the same manner and ignored all officer instructions, but left the third child on the porch and went back inside. Officer McNamara was able to safely bring all three children away from the residence. The male retreated into his house again, continuing to ignore all orders. Officers continued to maintain a perimeter around the house until Lieutenant Petranek arrived. Lieutenant Petranek was able to contact the male by phone. Through calm discussion and skillful negotiations, Lieutenant Petranek was able to talk the male into coming outside without the vest on or the gun, and he was arrested without incident. Through cooperative efforts, officers were able to safely retrieve 3 young children and arrest a violent male without injury to the children, the suspect, or the citizens of Cleveland. Officers, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Mr. Richard Black will be receiving the Citizen Award plaque and is unable to be with us today. On September 19th, 2020, a UPS driver was delivering packages when an unknown male approached him and pointed a gun at him. The suspect demanded the keys to the UPS truck, the driver's wallet, and cell phone. The UPS driver gave the male these items and fled from the truck, knowing the suspect would not be able to start the vehicle without instructions on the specific process. The suspect then chased the UPS driver to the residence of Richard Black. Mr. Black was out in his front yard trimming his lawn with a weed whacker when he observed the UPS driver in danger. Mr. Black told the victim to stay in his yard, and without regard to his personal safety, Mr. Black heroically chased the suspect away with the weed whacker. Mr. Black then calmed the driver by telling him that no one would harm him as long as he was there, and stayed with the victim until police arrived. If it were not for the rapid, courageous response of this citizen, this incident could have been much worse. It is our privilege to honor Mr. Black with this award. Will Sergeant Michael Harper, Detectives Carl Robinson, John Klein, Thomas Clamert, and Officer Jake Simonelli please come forward? Sergeant Harper, Detectives Robinson, Klein, Clamert, and Officer Simonelli will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal. On July 23, 2019, Detectives Thomas Clamert and Carl Robinson responded to a fatal overdose and carefully processed the scene for evidence to begin a manslaughter investigation. Lead investigator Detective Clamert identified a suspect within 24 hours of the fatal overdose. On July 5, 2019, members of the narcotic unit, heroin-involved death investigation team, along with members of the 1st District Patrol Section, conducted an undercover operation to arrest the suspect. Officer Jake Simonelli, Detectives John Klein and Carl Robinson, and Sergeant Michael Harper attempted to stop the suspect vehicle, but the driver ignored the lights and sirens and began to violently ram police vehicles. The suspect finally complied with officers' orders after his heavily tinted window was broken out and he was arrested. Officers learned that the suspect's vehicle was stolen in an aggravated robbery, and the suspect was also wanted in connection with a felonious assault on a police officer in another city. A loaded handgun was recovered from the suspect's vehicle, and evidence related to drug trafficking and suspected heroin was seized. Through cooperative efforts, quick actions, and performance in an exemplary manner, officers were able to prevent the deaths of other victims of the opioid crisis by identifying and apprehending a suspect who was profiting off the disease of addiction without regard for human life. Officers, it is our honor and privilege to award you these awards. Will Detective Scott Moran please come forward? Detective Scott Moran will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal and is unable to join us today. Beginning on March 22, 2019, Detective Scott Moran began an investigation into a drug trafficking organization. The suspects traveled between Cleveland, California, Texas, and the Bahamas. They were responsible for hundreds of pounds of methamphetamine being delivered to Cleveland on a bi-weekly basis. Detective Moran was able to infiltrate the organization in an undercover capacity and gain the trust of the main target through hours of phone conversations and numerous face-to-face meetings. Detective Moran, knowing the risks he was taking, continued on with the case until the suspect was arrested. When the case ended, detectives were able to seize a substantial amount of money and methamphetamine as a result of the arrests. More importantly, Detective Moran was able to stem the flow of a significant source of methamphetamine from hitting the streets of Cleveland. The investigation was also led to several other investigations outside of Ohio, which are continuing as of this day. It is our privilege to honor him with this award. Will Detectives David Santiago, John Graves, Scott Sistek, and William Salupo please come forward? Detective John Graves will be receiving the Medal of Heroism. Detective Salupo and Santiago will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal, and Detective Sistek will be receiving the Special Commendation Award. December 13, 2019, Radio Dispatch made a broadcast for a large fight involving guns. The 2nd District Vice Unit was conducting surveillance in the area, and Detective John Graves, William Salupo, David Santiago, and Scott Sistek responded to the scene. Detective John Graves was the first to arrive and confirm that there was a large fight in progress. He observed a suspect firing a gun into the crowd, broadcasted the shooter's description, and kept the male in sight. Detective Graves remained calm amid the chaos, even when a bullet pierced his police vehicle and struck him in the sole of his shoe. When Detective Salupo and Detective Santiago arrived, they entered the crowd and began to search for both victims and suspects. They gathered information and broadcast it to other officers. Upon hearing the information, Detective Sistek observed a male matching the description of the shooter. Detective Sistek began to pursue the armed suspect on foot without regard to his safety. The actions of these officers, while under the duress of a challenging scene, helped collect information which ultimately led to the identification of a dangerous criminal. Detectives, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Officers Ishmael Quran, Pierre Love, and Wanda Wright please come forward? Officer Wanda Wright will be receiving the Medal of Heroism. Officer Quran will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal, and Officer Love will be receiving the Special Commendation Award. On October 1st, 2019, Officer Ishmael Quran and Wanda Wright responded to a call for a robbery in progress. While en route, Officer Quran and Wright learned that the suspect shot a delivery driver. When they arrived, the officers located the truck and observed a male matching the suspect's description walking away. They then found the driver seriously injured, bleeding profusely from his head and arm after being shot with a shotgun. Officer Wright and Quran's quick assessment of the situation concluded that to treat the wounded victim and keep the suspect in sight, they would have to separate until more help arrived. Officer Quran quickly began giving first aid to the victim. Despite the severity of the driver's injuries, he calmly and quickly applied life-saving measures to stop the bleeding and help keep the driver calm until EMS arrived. While Officer Quran performed these life-saving measures, Officer Wright followed the suspect to keep him in sight. She maintained a low profile and calmly broadcasted her location, providing updates as the suspect continued walking. Officer Pierre Love responded to the scene, and as he arrived, officers observed the suspect tuck the sawed-off shotgun into his waistband and run into an apartment building. The officers quickly and bravely followed the suspect and arrested him. If it were not for the rapid and heroic response of these officers, this terrible incident could have been much worse. Instead, a life was saved and a dangerous criminal was apprehended. Officers, it is our privilege to honor you with this award. Will Sergeant Mark Warzencroft, officers Brooklyn Barnes, Dave Muniz, Eduardo Colon, and Nicholas Stum please come forward? Sergeant Warzencroft, officers Eduardo Colon and Nicholas Stum will be receiving the Medal of Heroism. Officer Barnes and Muniz will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal. On April 28, 2019, a traffic supervisor became involved in a vehicular pursuit of an armed robbery suspect driving a stolen vehicle. The suspect eventually stopped and fled into the neighborhood. Sergeant Mark Warzencroft, officers Brooklyn Barnes, Eduardo Colon, Dave Muniz, Nicholas Stum, and other officers quickly responded to that area. Officer Colon observed the armed male and ordered him to stop. The male continued to flee, eventually running up onto railroad tracks. In the ensuing search, the male was found hiding in a makeshift tent. When ordered to come out, the suspect exited the structure and began to shoot at the officers as he fled. Despite the danger, Sergeant Warzencroft and officers Barnes, Muniz, and Stum resumed the foot pursuit. As the suspect came upon Officer Colon, the suspect began to shoot at him, forcing Officer Colon to return fire, appearing to wound the suspect. The suspect sat down, but instead of complying with officers' commands, the suspect pointed his firearm at the officers, compelling them to respond accordingly. With the threat seemingly neutralized, the officers immediately began performing life-saving first aid on the suspect, who minutes earlier had tried to kill them. Officers, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Lieutenant Kevin Kincaid, Detectives Donald Kopchak, Robert Sauterer, Sean Smith, Kevin Warnock, Jeffrey Yazinchek, Officer Timothy Combs, please come forward. Lieutenant Kincaid, Detectives Kopchak, Sauterer, Smith, and Warnock, Yazinchek, and Officer Combs will be receiving the Distinguished Service Medal. It's also important to note that Special Agents Keith Lewis, Kamani Howard, and Jana Penfield will be receiving Chief's letters associated with this incident. On January 25, 2019, members of the 5th District Vice Unit, working in unison with agents from the Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosive Task Force, executed a search warrant that resulted in the arrest of 8 males and the collection of cocaine, marijuana, drug paraphernalia, along with multiple firearms and ammunition. This operation began with a complaint given to Officer Timothy Combs, who started performing traffic stops and surveillance to gather information. Officer Combs turned over the information to the 5th District Vice Unit. The detectives would then conduct additional surveillance to obtain enough evidence to get a warrant. The day that the team executed the warrant, they found officers working in frigid weather. As officers surrounded the house, the suspects attempted to flee but retreated inside. As a result, the SWAT unit was called to make entry and clear the house. Waiting for SWAT required officers to maintain tactical positions outside for over 45 minutes in sub-zero temperatures. This case demonstrates the patience and resolve of these detectives. In addition, this investigation also highlights the success that is achieved when partnering with other law enforcement agencies working towards a common goal. It is no doubt that the assistance of Agents Lewis, Howard, and Penfield played a prominent role in the overall success of the mission. Officers and special agents, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Officers Deshaun Coleman, Eric Drost, and Jason Bush please come forward? Officers Coleman, Drost, and Bush will be receiving the Medal of Heroism. On December 19, 2019, officers Jason Bush and Deshaun Coleman responded to a call for service involving an aggravated robbery of a motor vehicle. The victim gave officers valuable information, including that the suspects possessed a gun at the time the vehicle was taken. This information was broadcast to officers district-wide. Shortly after, Officer Drost located the stolen vehicle. Once backup was in the area, officers attempted to stop the car unsuccessfully, and a pursuit ensued. During the pursuit, the occupants of the stolen vehicle fired gunshots at the officers to elude capture. The vehicle pursuit ended in a parking lot when the suspects abandoned the vehicle and attempted to flee officers on foot. The teamwork demonstrated by officers Bush, Coleman, and Drost was exceptional. Despite the dangers involved, the officers conducted themselves in a commendable manner that exemplifies the spirit of their commitment to duty to the citizens of the city of Cleveland. Officers, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Detective Dante Aponte and Task Force Officer Brian Ortiz please come forward? Detective Aponte will be receiving the Medal of Heroism, and Task Force Officer Ortiz will be receiving a Chief's letter. On December 11, 2020, members of the Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force were executing an arrest of a wanted violent male. At the arrest location, the wanted male produced a handgun and shots were fired. Detective Dante Aponte and Task Force Officer Brian Ortiz immediately approached a vehicle that was parked next to the suspect vehicle. They noticed the vehicle was occupied and used their ballistic armor as a shield to protect two women and a small child as they pulled them out of the line of fire. Detective Aponte and Task Force Officer Ortiz, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will Lieutenant Pat Petranek and Detective Tony Gonzalez please come forward? Lieutenant Petranek and Detective Gonzalez will be receiving the Medal of Heroism. On January 26, 2020, Detective Tony Gonzalez received a radio assignment for a male shot. Upon arrival, Detective Gonzalez learned from the caller that the shooting victim and a 12-year-old girl were in the apartment with the suspect. Lieutenant Pat Petranek arrived on scene, addressed the situation, and devised a plan to remove the wounded victim and the 12-year-old child from the apartment. Lieutenant Petranek, Detective Gonzalez, in company with the Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority officers, removed the girl and the gunshot victim. During the extraction, officers heard the suspect fire a single gunshot from his bedroom. Upon entering the bedroom, officers discovered the suspect had shot himself and died. Lieutenant Pat Petranek and Detective Gonzalez never hesitated or wavered. These officers knew an armed suspect was inside, understood the severity of the situation and the exigency to get the victims. These officers performed the highest level, worked together as a team, and demonstrated extraordinary bravery in the face of danger. Lieutenant Petranek and Detective Gonzalez, it is our privilege to honor you with these awards. Will officers of the bike group please stand? We will recognize you where you are. The group awards will be forwarded separately. These officers will be receiving the Chief's Outstanding Unit Award. The members of the Cleveland Police Bike Group have consistently provided outstanding service to the community and the division throughout the year. In 2020, the group attended approximately 60 events through the city of Cleveland and surrounding communities. During the many protests that occurred, bicycle officers played an important role in managing crowds and preventing civil unrest. During the downtown protest that quickly turned into a riot, the bike group blocked the entrance for both the Cleveland Division of Police Headquarters and the Cuyahoga County Sheriff's Department. They maintained their position and stopped the rioters from entering the building, preventing further damage to the property and potential harm to the people inside. They were in attendance at the presidential debate in Cleveland, providing fast response and the ability to outmaneuver crowds. Bike officers assisted other police agencies with crowd control and protests. In addition, the group taught bike bicycle safety classes at local elementary schools, participated in bike-a-thons and related events, gave our residents and visitors a feeling of safety, and acted as ambassadors for the Division of Police and the City of Cleveland. Cleveland Police Bike Group officers have made our community a safer and more desirable place to visit, work, and live. Members of the Cleveland Division Police Bike Group, it is our privilege to honor you with the Chief's Outstanding Unit Award. Will Officer Ishmael Karan please come forward? Officer Karan will be receiving the 2019 Officer of the Year Award. Officer Ishmael Karan began his career as a Cleveland police officer on July 2nd, 2018. While assigned to the 3rd District, Officer Karan's bilingual ability has made him an invaluable resource for other members of the division. During an automobile crash where one person tragically lost their life, several witnesses were not fluent in English. Officer Karan was able to translate for detectives, and as a result, the offender was identified and held accountable. In addition, Officer Karan has been instrumental in a large number of potential volatile situations where language barriers were present. Not only was he able to interpret, Officer Karan's knowledge of the culture helped de-escalate the tensions on both sides of these disputes. He has successfully calmed hostile and violent individuals, mediated landlord-tenant disputes, and even assisted a family with finding and keeping temporary housing. Officer Karan is a gifted communicator, bringing calm understanding to situations when he responds. Officer Ishmael Karan has truly embodied the community policing philosophy for the Cleveland Division of Police. Officer Ishmael Karan, it is our privilege to honor you with this award. Will Sergeant Melissa Dawson please come forward? Sergeant Dawson will be receiving the 2020 Officer of the Year Award. Sergeant Melissa Dawson began her career as a Cleveland police officer on August 30th, 1999. As a patrol officer, she spent 8 years in the patrol section before being assigned to the police academy. While in the academy, before crisis intervention became news story headlines, Officer Dawson assisted in developing a crisis intervention training program and worked tirelessly in collaboration with the mental health community. On July 9, 2012, Officer Dawson was promoted to the rank of sergeant. She began developing solid and trusting relationships with division members in the communities they serve. Sergeant Dawson was then assigned to the Employee Assistance Unit as the officer in charge. Through her efforts, she has cultivated a unit that promotes officer wellness and consistently supports officers and their families during traumatic incidents and their most challenging times. In addition to providing support to the division, Sergeant Dawson and the members of the EAU have provided support for outside agencies during traumatic incidents whenever called upon. Sergeant Dawson's dedication to duty has truly embodied the philosophy of officer wellness for the Cleveland Division of Police. Sergeant Melissa Dawson, it is our privilege to honor you with this award. Yeah, absolutely.
Chief's privilege again. Real quick, I just can't leave without saying thank you to Sergeant Dawson and her team. The members of the division owe them a deep bit of gratitude for all that they do for all of us and our families. Melissa and her team have put together our wellness program, our yoga, our mindfulness, financial well-being for officers, you name it. Whatever this division needs, that team gets it done. And they have come to me, on 24 occasions saying, Chief, we need this. And they lay it out, and sure enough, we need it, and they get it done. So Melissa and her team are definitely diamonds for this division, and we have to keep supporting them because they do an excellent job. Thank you, Sarge.
Shorter. And I apologize. I didn't know they were in attendance, but will Special Agents Keith Lewis, Kamani Howard, and Jana Penfield please come forward? They will be receiving the Chief's letter. Agents Lewis, Howard, and Panfield are receiving the award. On January 25th, 2019, they assisted the 5th District Vice Unit working in unison. They executed a search warrant that resulted in the arrest of 8 males and a collection of cocaine, marijuana, drug paraphernalia, along with multiple firearms and ammunition. Officer David Fahey Jr. will be receiving the Police Star posthumously. Will the Fahey family please come forward? On January 24th, 2017, Officer David Fahey Jr. was struck and killed by a hit-and-run driver while assisting at the scene of a fatal accident. Officer Fahey was setting out flares to divert traffic off the highway when he was struck by an oncoming car. The vehicle fled after striking him. The driver was arrested later in the day and was ultimately sentenced to 12 years in November 2018. Officer Fahey was a U.S. Navy veteran and had served with the Cleveland Division of Police for 2.5 years. To the family of Officer Fahey, it is our privilege to honor you with this award. Officer Vu Nguyen will be receiving the Police Star posthumously. Will the Nguyen family please come up? On July 2nd, 2018, Officer Vu Nguyen and other officers were being evaluated in the physical fitness portion of the Canine Handler Eligibility Test. While participating in the 1.5-mile run, Officer Nguyen collapsed in a 90-plus degree heat. He was transported to Metro Health, where his condition continued to worsen. He was flown to Cleveland Clinic, where he passed away on July 6, 2018. Officer Nguyen had served with the Cleveland Division of Police for over 20 years and had previously served with the Cleveland Division of Corrections for 4 years. To the family of Officer Nguyen, it is our privilege to honor you with this award. Officer Jonathan Rodriguez will be receiving the Police Star. On June 5th, 2020, Officer Jonathan Rodriguez was responding to a SWAT call-up for a male who had barricaded himself in a house. The subject was making threats to shoot police officers. While en route to the location, the SWAT van was struck by a drunk driver who failed to stop for the red light and who subsequently fled the scene. The driver was later arrested. Officer Rodriguez was rushed to the hospital with severe spinal injuries. Officer Jonathan Rodriguez, it is our privilege to honor you. Detective James Skirnovich will be receiving the Police Star posthumously. Will the Skirnovich family please come forward? On September 3rd, 2020, Detective James Skirnovich was shot and killed while working in an undercover capacity as a part of a federal task force supporting Operation Legend. An informant who was with Detective Skirnovich was also shot and killed when 3 subjects approached their vehicle and attempted to rob them. 2 juveniles and an adult were arrested and charged with aggravated murder, aggravated robbery, and felonious assault. Detective Skirnovich had served with the Cleveland Division of Police for 22 years. He was assigned to the Gang Impact Unit in the FBI Violent Crimes Task Force. To the family of Detective James Skirnovich, it is our privilege to honor you with this award. Now, I would ask that all of today's award recipients please stand. A hand salute is a sign of honor and respect. At this time, I will lead us in demonstrating our respect for all these gallant officers and brave citizens. Command staff, please stand and cover. Command staff, present arms. Order, arms. I would like to ask up Cleveland Police Chaplain Rabbi Wolf, who will lead us for our closing prayer.
Sorry again. You guys can have a seat. I know everybody's saying, when is this guy going to sit down and shut up? But I can't leave this stage today on, again, my last official duty as the chief of this division without recognizing a person that you probably don't know that keeps it all together. I mean, everything, day in and day out, since the day I took this job almost 8 years ago, that keeps it all together. We just created this Chief's Meritorious Service Award, and the first recipient of 2020 is going to be Deputy Chief Joellen O'Neill. Stand up, Joel. Come on, stand right there, right there. And Joe's surprised because she didn't know she was getting this. She didn't even know we created this. And I'm going to read it because it deserves to be read. And it says, the Chief's Meritorious Service Award is awarded to a sworn member of the Division of Police who has demonstrated an outstanding devotion to duty, professionalism, and dedication to the Division of Police to the highest level beyond that established by one's peers throughout their career. Joel O'Neill was appointed to the Division of Police in January of 1992. After 9 years as a patrol officer and detective in the Scientific Investigation Unit, Patrol Officer O'Neill received her promotion to sergeant March 19th of 2001. On September 15th of 2003, she advanced to the rank of lieutenant, followed by her appointment to the Bureau of Support Services as commander on July 30th, 2007. And I know she did it kind of kicking and screaming like the kid in the back, because Joe doesn't step out and want attention, but she steps in and takes care of the job. On March 3rd of 2014, because of her exemplary work, Commander O'Neill was appointed Deputy Chief, where she has diligently served the division as the executive officer for the Chief of Police. Chief O'Neill understood the importance of education in law enforcement and continually encouraged officers to further their education. Leading by example, she graduated from both John Carroll University and the prestigious FBI National Academy. Additionally, Deputy Chief O'Neill has been a champion of women in law enforcement, creating a support group and being a source of guidance and encouragement to our female officers. Deputy Chief O'Neill has represented the City of Cleveland and the Division of Police professionally throughout her career, always putting the division and its officers before herself. For this dedication and devotion, it is my great honor to bestow on Deputy Chief Joellen O'Neill the inaugural Chief's Meritorious Service Award. Congratulations, Joe.
As we close this beautiful ceremony, we ask you, O God, for your continued blessings upon all your children, all honorees and friends gathered here today. We also pray for our brothers and sisters working the streets of our city at this moment. Lord God, please be with them, that they should feel your love, kindness, and compassion in all that they do. Lord, please bring them home safely to their loved ones each and every day. We conclude with the words of our tradition. May God bless you and keep you. May God shine his countenance upon you and be gracious to you. May God bless you all with peace and always keep you in his loving care. And let us say, Amen.
One final thought before we go. For every scenario that's been recounted for you this evening, there are countless others that were just as heroic and just as selfless that weren't recognized, many of which were carried out by the same men and women that were honored here tonight. The men and women you see before you are but a fraction of the dedicated and professional members of our area's law enforcement community that serve faithfully every day to make our great city a better place to live, work, and visit. I am truly humbled to be in the presence of so many fine men and women. For those of you that parked in Willard Garage, please be sure to obtain a parking pass before leaving. On behalf of Director Karrie Howard and through the generosity of Director Michael Cox in the Department of Public Works, we're offering a reduced parking rate of $3 to award recipients, families, and friends in attendance tonight. In order to receive the reduced price, B, you must see the officers in the back of the room. They will validate your parking pass. I would like to thank all of you once again for taking the time to join us tonight to honor these many worthy award recipients. I would like to ask the Police Star recipients to please remain for a photo. This concludes the award ceremony. Thank you and good evening.